What is up, YouTube? My name is Alex. Welcome back to the Lifting Nomad. Today's video, we're going to talk about my review of the Patagonia mountain hike. I'm in Bariloche, Argentina, as part of the Patagonia region, and I did a hike this weekend, and I want to talk about my experience doing it. Was it worth the hype? Was it worth going? Should you venture away from Buenos Aires, come all the way down here to do a hike? Let's chat through it and find out. So, yeah, like I mentioned, I'm in Bariloche, Argentina, which is part of the Patagonia region of South America, so way down here, like 10,000 kilometers from home. And I'm staying at the Salina in Bariloche, but that's not where we started. I started the day from the sort of lakeside venue where I took some of the tourist classic photos of the Bariloche sign and the lago, the lake in the background. It was beautiful, really nice day to grab some coffee. Ended up doing like a little bit of shopping for the tourist stuff, found some magnets and some keychains, that sort of thing. Then I went back to the Salina because that's where we were leaving from. I'm staying at the Salina Bariloche. It is amazing. This property, I've stayed at a lot of Salinas throughout Europe and South America. This is by far the biggest I've ever stayed at. Indoor pool, outdoor pool, gym. Gym was actually pretty good. It's, I would say, pretty well worn. This was pretty beat up. There's actually like a decent amount of machines though, and the dumbbells went up to 40 kilos, which is like 90 pounds. So I was kind of surprised to see one of those bad boys sitting there. But it was pretty good actually. And it was just like the paint was chipped. It was a little beat up. The bench was definitely pretty shitty, same with the squat rack, but you know, you're staying at a hostel and they have a gym on site, so you can't really complain. It's also a yoga studio, a wellness studio, and I think there's somewhere to spin. I didn't do it, but and then in terms of facilities on site, it is incredible actually. There's a restaurant and bar in the lobby, which is like pretty typical. They have like coffee, beer, all that, but then there's also like a pretty fancy bistro on site, which is accessible to the public as well as guests of the Salina. So there's quite a few folks I think who are coming here to just go to that restaurant. It was like the El Canelo Bistro was the name of it, and it was like really like high-end, very good food, so something worth keeping in mind. So we left from the Salina, then went back downtown to pick up our bus. We tried to wait for the number 55 bus, and we waited like an hour and a half and never showed up. Asked the bus driver what the deal was, and he said it comes by every like 20-30 minutes. Obviously not the case. So we decided it wasn't worth the wait and took a taxi, and it is an incredible ride. I'm here in February, so it's definitely like hot, beautiful weather. I'm sure if you came here maybe in the shoulder seasons, it wouldn't be as nice. And then of course, if you're coming in the winter, well, the Patagonia winter to ski and snowboard is gonna look completely different than these videos. But it was amazing. You drive along the lake. I like got to put my hand out the window, enjoyed some of the scenery and the air, and it just smells incredible. Really just like beautiful, beautiful place to be, and being in this environment is serene and relaxing and just kind of tranquilo, you know, it just calms the nerves. So then we took the taxi from there. I ended up meeting one of my friends who I'd met in Buenos Aires. She was here and she had met another British lad. Ended up running into these two Israeli guys, and we all decided to split cabs. Ended up being just over 4,000 pesos at the time of this recording, February 2023. That is like roughly $10 between 3 people or 4 people, you know, really just a couple bucks, not a big deal. Taxi ride took about 20-25 minutes to go out there. We hiked the Core Catedral, is the name of it. And it is kind of at the base of a bunch of like ski chalets and ski and snowboard chalets and the slopes. So there's actually one of the cables was running, so the ski lift was running. We didn't take that and weren't really sure whether we'd be able to hike back down or we'd have to just walk around and then take the ski lift back down. So we opted to actually just do the hike. So it's called the Frey Trail was the name of it, F-R-E-Y, and it was absolutely gorgeous. This was, you know, you're hiking at the beginning of it, you start like a few kilometers into this sort of desert landscape. It was very dry. The foliage was like kind of like cacti almost, but they were still like in a forest. So it was kind of interesting to see. And then after you get through that, you come up onto the top of the hill a little bit and you can look out over one of the lakes, and it's just like the Patagonia mountains in the background. It is like, it's tough to describe. These videos don't really do it justice, but it was absolutely amazing. Tons of spots to stop and take photos. Hit some of that up for the Hinge game, and well worth the hike. The first few kilometers I'd say were very, very easy. This was a fairly long hike. I think we were just over 10 kilometers total each direction. So not for the faint of heart, and make sure you're packing water and food and wearing proper footwear. And then as we got a little bit further in, it got like pretty challenging, I would say. If you're not, I would say like fairly athletic, this is gonna be kind of a tough hike for you to do. I'm not a hiker by any stretch, so maybe this is like me over exaggerating, but I felt like pretty challenged. I did this yesterday, I'm sore as hell today. My calves are on fire, my hips are sore, and I didn't exercise. I didn't work out yesterday, I just did this hike. But it ended up being almost like 20 kilometers round trip. I was at like 36,000 steps yesterday, which is probably why my calves are sore. But it was long and very challenging near the end of it. So I would keep that in mind. The other thing as well, make sure you're wearing sunscreen. It's summertime here in Bariloche, so it's extremely hot. It was like 25, 26 degrees Celsius and very high UV index. So definitely make sure you're wearing sunscreen. But other than that, it was really enjoyable and peaceful to get out there and see the views from up top. Lots of great places to take some photos. We stopped and took a couple rests, had some food, had some water, and then kept going. And as you get kind of near the end, there's a beach, a playa off to the side along one of the lakes. We didn't go down there because it was an extra like 2 or 3 kilometers, but it looked amazing. If you were here for maybe a week, I'm only here for a few days, maybe worth to like spend a day and go check out that beach. But nevertheless, that's what I did. And then as you get further past that, you kind of go into more of like a forest biome. That's the word I was thinking about Minecraft. It was more like foresty, so there's like rivers and streams, and it's more tree covered, so you don't really have as much issue with the sun there. But at that point, it starts to be very, very quiet and very calming. So we stopped for a while, ended up watching some of the, just like literally sitting there and listening to the rivers. I made a joke, the girl I was with, she's like, oh, I love the sound of waterfalls. And I was like, oh yeah, pretty unique to love the sound of waterfalls, right? But I think everyone does. And then near the end, we were about 10 kilometers in. The guy we were hiking with, the British lad, he actually was continuing to hike on. He was doing like a 4-day trek where he was staying in these like refugiarios to stay overnight, like in like a sleeping bag kind of thing. We were just doing a day hike, so at that point we turned back around and doubled back down the same road we took. I believe there was a way where we could have connected to that cable car and then taken that back down to save some time, but the girl I was with had to catch a flight, so we ultimately decided just to hike back the same way we came. And you actually see a lot more, you'd think you're backtracking, but because you're going a hike, it's like different terrain on each way. So like part of the way you're climbing things up and then you're climbing it down, it looks different. So we ended up spotting a few different things on the way back that we missed on the way there, which was nice to have that variety. And then it took us, I would say like probably 20 minutes shorter to do it on the way back because we knew it a little bit better. We knew like where to speed up and where to slow down and how to pace ourselves a bit better. But it was overall an incredible day and really cheap as well. It took a taxi back, again, same kind of price, 4,000. When we got to the bottom of the mountain, we stopped and got some empanadas from one of the restaurants there. Absolutely delicious. They cost like 400 pesos for one. It was like $1. And it was well worth the day. Like, between all of that, I spent like less than $10 on the whole day, including like water that we picked up. So that's well worth it if you're here to explore and travel. It's definitely different. People who are like digital nomading versus on holiday, where I have to be back in the hostel to get internet access, all of that. But overall, it was well worth the hike, and I'm glad I did it. Got to hike a mountain in Patagonia. Not too many people get to say they did that. But in my opinion, yeah, well worth the experience. I would do it again in a heartbeat, and I would recommend anyone who's down here do the same. There's a ton of different options. Like I said, this was the Corre Catedral, but lots of different mountains that you could hike and make the most out of the day. So that is my review of the Patagonia mountain hike. Hopefully this was useful and hopefully you enjoyed. And if it was, feel free to leave a comment. Always helps the algorithm. But as always, my name's Alex. Welcome back to the Lifting Nomad. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.